Hey, what's going on everybody? So in today's video, I want to kind of just talk about something that's been on my mind, and that is digital calipers. So I have two digital calipers here. One is a OG Harbor Freight, and then the other one is a Mitutoyo Authentic, um, because that's where the game's at. So one thing that I've noticed is that OG Harbor Freight just, I was expecting like a lot of like good things from Mitutoyo because there's so much hype around Mitutoyo, you know? And so I've had this Harbor Freight digital caliper for, oh gosh, I want to say I bought it back in like 2003. So this is like OG Harbor Freight, something that I don't know what they were doing back then, but I bought this on sale for I think $6. And it was just one of those things where I was like, I'm gonna take a chance. It's $6, 6-inch caliper. It's $1 an inch. If it fails on the first try, I'm not out a whole lot of money. Well, it's 2024 and this thing is still going strong. So one thing that I had to do is I took it apart and I cleaned it. A lot of people say that, there's this origin thing with Mitutoyo and, it holds zero no matter where it's at. But I don't know. I mean, OG Harbor Freight has just served me well, and I've seen some tests done, where they say Harbor Freight doesn't do that. But we're going to do all that today and just see what we get. Let's go ahead and turn this on right here, and you can see we're just going to go ahead and zero that out. So one test was if you kind of slide it like really fast like that, then it'll like get thrown off. But you can see right there it's still at zero. So that myth, I guess, is debunked. But once again, this is OG Harbor Freight. So, this might be a special caliper. All right, so anyway, another one is that if you turn it off, one thing that I like about OG Harbor Freight that Mitutoyo doesn't do, and I'm gonna show you that in a moment, is that I can just slide it and it'll turn on and it'll go exactly to where it's at, relative to its position. And so what I really like about this is like, if you only have one hand and your other hand is like kind of fumbling, it has things, you don't have to drop what you're doing with the other hand and then turn the power on. I mean, sure, you could like awkwardly slide it up with the same hand, but the one thing I like about the Harbor Freight is that whatever you have in your hand, all you got to do is just slide it and it's ready to go. And then you can just measure what you want to measure. So that's really cool. That's what I like about the Harbor Freight. All right, so we're going to go ahead and turn this off, and we're just going to get into some basics, some points, some bullet points, I guess you can say. Now, first we're going to compare cases. Now, here you can see Mitutoyo. This case is just significantly larger. I will say this is the 8-inch. So the Mitutoyo that I have is the 8-inch case, and the Harbor Freight is the 6-inch case. But you'll see once I open it up that it's still oversized for even an 8-inch. All right, so the one thing I like about the Harbor Freight is that it has a single opening mechanism in the middle. So if, once again, if your other hand is, let's say, occupied and holding something, you can just open the case with one hand, just like that, and you can get your caliper. Whereas the Mitutoyo right here, it has two little latches that you have to do. So if you, it's kind of still like a pain, and you can see here's all the documentation. You get your instruction manual, the battery, everything. You get the little certificate. I'm not going to go into these details, mainly because there's so much on the internet about them already, and just look up those videos. Lots of good information out there. So I'm going to put that aside. All right, Here's the Mitutoyo right here. Gonna take this out for now and just focus on the box. So you can see that I've added some foam because the Mitutoyo just comes with this kind of blow mold plastic. And you don't really, you get, I guess you can call this some trunk space, some storage space. You know, I end up putting an eraser in here just because I felt like I needed to just add some more value to what I was getting for what I paid. And I added some foaming, and this is just to kind of keep it so that it doesn't rattle around. I'll take this foam out so that you can see what it sounds like, or you can hear what it sounds like without the foam. So I'll close it. Hear how it's like all like loose and everything like that. And if we take OG Harbor Freight, it comes with foam. So it comes with a foam cutout, everything like that. You get a nice little battery, extra battery storage here, and you get a little trunk space right here. So if you want to put your eraser, which probably won't fit, but we'll see. Hey, look, it fits. How about that? So you can always erase your mistakes. And in life, there's never mistakes, only happy accidents. All right, so here you can see it's a perfect cutout, and we're gonna go ahead and close it. And you can see there's hardly any noise. So that's really nice, that's what I like. And you know, if you wanna just talk about sensitive electronics, I feel safer with a case like this that has some protection versus a case like this that is just loose plastic that's sliding around everywhere. So that's why I made this little, I put in these little foam inserts here. And you can see once I put in the foam inserts and stuff like that, and then kind of, it's not as loud or as noisy. So that's good. So I gotta give, in terms of cases and everything like that, I gotta give it to OG Harbor Freight. Now, I don't know what Pittsburgh is because, I mean, from what I've read on the comments in the future, like, you know, most recent comments on Harbor Freight, a lot of people don't like the Pittsburgh. So going back to Harbor Freight, like here you can see the screen and the screen on both calipers, they're pretty much the same. I'll turn this on right here. They're pretty much the same size. Mitutoyo's a little bit bigger, but not by much. The thing is, Mitutoyo, especially like, you know, I mean the 6-inch to 8-inch, they're going for like almost $200 if you want to get authentic, you know, and they're going for like $200 plus. And I mean, one of the things that I want to see, you know, in a caliper, especially at that price point, is a larger screen. I want some bells and whistles, you know what I mean? Like this should have an alarm clock. This should beep. This should have some really cool settings. This should have a backlight, you know? I mean, like, I'm sure there's a Navy SEAL right now who didn't pass because they were like underwater planning depth charges and he couldn't see his digital caliper, so he turned on his flashlight that's rated at 10 million lumens, and his instructor caught him and said, hey, you're out. So if there was an indigo backlight on this or something like that, then his instructor would have just said, oh, that's a cool jellyfish, check that out. But unfortunately, this doesn't have a backlight. You know, there's no like, you know, chime function or anything like that, or any kind of like programming. Another interesting thing about the Harbor Freight is this little port right here, which I think if we kind of get some light there, I think that is so that you can plug in a data cable and send your measurements to a CAD program, which is really cool. You have to pay extra for that, for the Mitutoyo. So that's kind of the bummer about that. Yeah, so you can see here it doesn't have that right there. Yeah, so that's another feature that's missing and that OG Harbor Freight has. But yeah, I will say with the 8-inch, the one cool thing, so some positives about that, is the jaws are bigger. Um, these jaws are way bigger than these jaws right here. Now, I don't know if that's just the thing with the 6-inch. So if you were to get 6-inch Mitutoyo, would the jaws be the same size? Who knows? But that's just something to consider. And, you know, so, but I will say that Mitutoyo, though, if you slide it like this, it will hold 0 as well. But I will say, if you turn it off and you slide it, it doesn't turn on. You see right there, it doesn't turn on. So that's one thing that kind of is a bummer. You can see here with Harbor Freight is that if it is off, right, then all you got to do is just turn it on and it'll automatically reference where it is on the scale and start your measurement from there. So you don't have to worry about it being off. So that's what I like, and you can see it goes right back to 0. So that's what I like about the Harbor Freight. Another cool thing I will say is that if you press the inch button, it goes, like you barely have to press it and it goes to inches, millimeters. Whereas the Mitutoyo, you kind of like, if you just lightly tap it, you see it doesn't go to millimeters. And that's because this is recessed a little bit. The inch millimeter button's recessed relative to all the other buttons. So you kind of really have to press a little harder just to get to millimeters and to get back to, look, see, I'm pressing it. There you go, to inches. So, I mean, you know, it's just like, that's just a quality of life thing. It's not the end of the world, but I mean, if we're talking about attention to detail, and I mean, if you're like a machinist or anything like that, then that's pretty much, you know, your lifestyle is attention to detail. Then this is just something to notice. I don't know why they didn't do that. So once again, you know, where's all the money going? Is it going into the hype, or you know, is it going into the quality? And I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? I'm gonna leave that up to you. Leave a comment. Leave a comment down below. I know this is gonna be a pretty hot topic, but I want to hear your opinions. All right, so now let's get into some of the nitty grittiness of this. So now we're gonna bust out our feeler gauge, and so this is let's see here. This is Craftsman made in the USA right there. So, yep. All right, so what we're gonna do here, let's get out a really thin one. And we'll go ahead and clean it off, right? Make sure it's nice and clean. All right, so let's see here. All right, so this is millimeters, 0.0015 in inches, and then 0.038 in millimeters. All right, so we're just gonna take our caliper, take a measurement here. The reason that this was off was because these are so thin that I had them, they were actually stuck together. So let's try that again. This feeler gauge is reading in inches 0.0015, and then for millimeters, it is going to be 0.038. So let's go ahead and measure that. And in millimeters, you can see it's 0.04, and here we have 0.038. So that's a pretty nice roundup, I would say. It's not too bad. Okay, so now we're going to switch to inches, and we have a target of 0.0015. So let's go ahead and see what that is. And as you can see, it is 0.001 small 5. So it's pretty accurate. All right, let's see what Mitutoyo gives us. All right, so you can see Mitutoyo takes us to 2 right there. So one thing I did forget to do is clean off these jaws here. Okay, so it's zeroed. All right, there we go. So there's a little something on the jaws. So that's a plus. That's a plus for Mitutoyo because it shows the accuracy. So here we go. 0.0015. And once again, this is going to be 0.0015. So let's switch to millimeters now. All right, there we go. Let's see what we get. And we get 0.4. And it's the same. It rounded up, 0.038. So far, OG Harbor Freight and Mitutoyo is reading the same. Let's just take another random number here. Something a little thicker, I guess. Go ahead and clean this up here. Okay, we got OG Harbor Freight here. And this feeler gauge, making sure that nothing is stuck behind it this time like the last one. All right, this one is reading for inches 0.024 and for millimeters 0.610 in millimeters. All right, so here we go. And in inches, we got 0.024, goes to, yep, 0.024 with small 5. So now we're going to switch to millimeters, 0, and we get 0.62. And here we're at 0.61. All right, so let's see if we take another measurement here. There we go, we get 0.61. All right, so 0.62, 0.61. All right, so now if you do want to say anything, the jaws on the Mitutoyo will be more consistent than the jaws on the OG Harbor Freight. So that's something to nitpick about. But I mean, if you know your tools, then you'll just know that's where you need to make your measurements. All right, so here we have 0.61. And here we have 0.62. So actually it's the same. Yep, 0.62 here, and at the edge we have 0.61. So what can I say? Hey, Harbor Freight, Mitutoyo, exact same measurement. Now we're going to switch back to inches for the Mitutoyo, and you can see here we have 0.024, and that's what we get, 0.024. And here we have 0.024. So OG Harbor Freight was off by half a thousandths, which is the little small 5, or the 5 at the end of the Mitutoyo. So not too bad, not too shabby. Now in OG Harbor Freight's defense, you're not really looking for super accurate measurements with a digital caliper. If you, digital caliper in the machinist world, I guess you could say, from what I've read, digital calipers are just the eyeball. You're just eyeballing things. And if you want really, really accurate results, then you use a micrometer. So I gotta say, and plus, not to mention these calipers, most calipers are rated and they have a plus or minus 1/1000th of an inch, and that's totally fine. So these can actually be out of range by 1/1000th of an inch. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, moving forward, pretty much, I guess we can talk about smoothness. So I will say I've had to do a lot of work to get this to operate butter smooth, and I'll show you what I mean. So like, let me see if I can pull it off. So I'm gonna try to slowly see how I'm moving it in the thousandths. Oops, this is in millimeters. Oops. All right, let's see. Slowly gonna try to move it. There we go, 0.5, 1, This is so hard. 2, 4. Okay, let's try. So that's to just kind of indicate how smooth this slides now, how I've gotten it this smooth. So it did take some work. I actually had to open all this up and clean it. And what's interesting is that inside of this, there's 2 copper strips. And I don't know if they help with, just more accuracy or something like that. I don't know if newer Harbor Freight calipers come with the copper strips, but it's something that I've noticed that not all digital calipers have these 2 little copper strips inside. So now on the Mitutoyo, I will say out of the box, this is really smooth and you don't have to do any work to it. I still just kind of like cleaned it, but let's try it. Let's do the same test. Let's see if we can, or should I say challenge? Oh, okay, so we're at 0.5. And let's see, oh, right away we're at 2. I'm trying to get to 1. 1's kind of like 0.5, 2, 3, 7. It's hard to get to 1 on this one. I've been like trying, I've been practicing. Yeah, 2. Whereas the Harbor Freight gets to 1. You saw that. So they're both smooth. I mean, like this just glides. I mean, and they both glide. This one just glides too. It's just, I mean, it's super smooth. So that, yeah, I mean, is Mitutoyo worth like $200, $300, depending on where you shop? And that's what's so crazy is that the prices on Mitutoyo for the same caliper just varies from like retailer to retailer. Harbor Freight, it's always going to be the same price. I will say that there's other calipers out there that have the larger screen display. I mean, so Mitutoyo, another thing that's like really big in Japanese business and culture is something called Kaizen. And Kaizen is just small improvements, and it's just a way of life of just improving your life. Some Japanese businessmen went to an American company and they noticed that nothing had changed in like the 25 years, that the company's been in business, or the last time they visited, something like that. And they were just like really surprised that, that a company could stay the same for so long without any kind of improvements. And that's one of the things about Japanese culture is that there's always improvements being made. So the philosophy is that when you visit the first time somewhere like a company and then you come back, you shouldn't be able to recognize too much of, you shouldn't be able to recognize that it's the same facility, meaning that it should be so far improved. Now, that's a really good philosophy, but I feel like I don't see where the improvement has been made in these calipers. I mean, you still got the small screen. Buttons are still kind of, not as easy to press. And there's no backlight, there's no like program features. I mean, Mitutoyo should be just real. I mean, they're already on top of their game, but I mean, they should really be on top of their game, and just like really just crushing it in terms of just innovation with their calipers, and they shouldn't just stop because, nothing's broke, so why fix it or why improve it? No, I feel like things should be improved. Give more, like add the little transfer docking feature, why make that a separate option? And yeah, so I think there's still a lot to be done with Mitutoyo. And OG Harbor Freight, you can see that for $6 you pretty much get the same thing. Maybe you might just have to clean it up a little bit, so it's like 10 minutes of your time. versus, you know, just spending like 10 times the amount of money. But, you know, for some people that's okay, you know, because money is time. And so they don't mind spending the money to buy themselves time or to save themselves time. And that's totally understandable. I agree with that 100%. But if you have the time, you know, if you have 10 minutes, if 10 minutes doesn't cost you $1,000,000, then go ahead and clean the Harbor Freight. But I can't speak for Harbor Freight of 2024. I can't. So if you have that old school OG Harbor Freight digital caliper, hold on to it. Do not throw it away. If you gave it away, call the person you gave it away to and ask for it back. Just kidding. But yeah, if you do have the old school Harbor Freight and you've just kind of like, you know, threw it in the back corner somewhere and forgot about it, pull it out and go clean it up and put a new battery in it and stuff like that. And, you know, another thing people talk about while we're on the topic of batteries is Mitutoyo doesn't drain the battery as often. I mean, okay, wow, you know, you get a spare battery, you know. So, I mean, I guess the reason that Mitutoyo's, you know, they made a battery that doesn't drain, or they made a digital caliper that doesn't drain, is because they don't give you a free battery or an extra battery. So their philosophy is, we don't need to give you an extra battery because our batteries last forever. Fair enough, whatever, if you want to call it that. I mean, you know, you could still throw in a free battery. But yeah, so the Harbor Freight, the battery will drain, but what I've noticed is that the battery, it'll start to blink, you know, and that's kind of the telltale sign that the digital caliper is getting low on batteries, that it'll blink. And the thing is, it'll blink forever. So it's strong out the box, you know, for maybe like 3 or 4 months, and then after that it'll start blinking, but it'll blink for like 3 years or something like that. And then after that it'll really get bad and it'll start to like dim out, you know, where like you can barely see the screen, the display. It'll get dim, and that's when you know the battery is low, and you need to change it out. But other than that, it's fine. So, I mean, you know, talking about everything, you know, man, what can I say? I can say that I do like Mitutoyo. It's a nice caliper, and it's accurate. It's accurate, it's consistent, you know, but it's also one of those things where it's really expensive and you find yourself not using it because it's expensive. It turns into one of those kind of things. Whereas like OG Harbor Freight, and it's also one of those things where, because OG Harbor Freight gives the same exact readings for the most part, I mean, and it's pretty much just as good. I default to this. I default to OG Harbor Freight. And another cool thing is that if this does break or goes bad, you know, I can just take it apart and clean it. That's something that I think a lot of people, I don't know if they would do that to a Mitutoyo just because they feel like they've paid so much money, that they would just send it back to Mitutoyo. Whereas the Harbor Freight, you know, I was like, hey, this thing costs $6, just gonna open it up, whatever. And, you know, lo and behold, that's actually recommended. If you get fluid on the actual reader, the ruler part, and so there's like this little kind of like copper strip, and that's how it reads. That's how you get this reading. And so if you spill anything and then it gets into the board on this part, into the circuit board underneath, then you're going to get really wacky readings. You're going to get really wacky readings that it's going to make you say like, what the heck is wrong with this? This is junk. And that's those reviews you read where they say junk, you know, Chinese junk, Chinesium, blah, blah, blah. But really, it's just, just clean it. And so pretty much what you're going to do is you're going to peel off this sticker right here. This is just a sticker, and you peel this off. I didn't put mine back on because I tried and it didn't stick. And I mean, it was really not that important. It was just like some threading measurements or something like that. So, I didn't need it. So I just left it off, and it looks nicer. It's a nice clean look this way. But yeah, you just remove these screws, and then you remove this screw right here, which takes off this wheel, and you just remove the whole unit, and then you'll see all like the backside, you'll see the computer, everything like that, and just take some 100% alcohol and clean it, wipe it down, wipe all this down, and put it back together, and boom, this is good as new. And you'll get those nice accurate readings. So that's, I think I covered everything. If I didn't, if you're upset, if you're angry, just leave a comment down below, and I'll try to, answer your questions or your comments. But for the most part, if you're thinking about buying Mitutoyo, I don't know. I mean, do what you got to do, but I feel like if Mitutoyo, I hope Mitutoyo's listening. I feel like Mitutoyo should step up their game. Like, seriously, the whole like origin thing. I mean, it's the same thing, I don't know. You get the same thing. I mean, it's whatever, I mean, I know like all the top machinists out there on YouTube are like waking up in the middle of the night because they heard this video somewhere and they're going to leave a comment. But, it's just, Harbor Freight, I mean, for what you're paying for and the accuracy you get, you can't beat it compared to this, and if you're running a machine shop and all that kind of stuff, sure, maybe like, I mean, you can still get away with both, because I mean, this I've had since 2003, 2004, so like 20 years almost, and it's still going strong, and I put it to use, so I mean, unless you're using this like to kind of like chisel your way out of Alcatraz or something, then maybe you might want to go with Mitutoyo. I don't know which metal is higher quality, but yeah, just go with what has like a decent price, good reviews, and stick to that. That's my recommendation on calipers after my experience with Mitutoyo. But I mean, if things change, I would buy like another Mitutoyo. Like if I saw improvements, like a larger display, LCD, better buttons, and more features, like a backlight, alarms, everything like that, like little chimes and stuff like that. Who knows, maybe even like some like RGB lighting, right? Like a special edition RGB lighting Mitutoyo. How cool would that be? But anyway, yeah, so look around on the internet and everything like that. And yeah, I know this has been like a long kind of rant / public service announcement. So thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking by. Be sure to like and subscribe, especially if you like this video, or if this video pissed you off. Like and subscribe anyway. And with all that said, I will see y'all in the next video. All right, so technically, you could put this whole little battery part in here and stack a few batteries there. I'll give it to Mitutoyo for that one. I'll take off a few points. I mean, I'll add a few points. So I just decided to keep it onto the manual, but I'll help them out. I'll help Mitutoyo out, and pretty much, yeah, you can put some batteries. If you remove this battery, you can put some batteries in here, and yep, there. Yep, so that's what this compartment's for. Not just little cute erasers, but hardcore rugged batteries. All right, see y'all later.